Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to talk about Say Nothing again. Hello bibliophiles, my name is Jill, and I'm sorry, I'm distracted by my lipstick because it's a lot darker on camera than it looks like in my mirror. So I don't normally wear lipstick this dark, so I'm quite I'm not taken with myself, but I can't stop looking at myself, if you know what I mean. If you can believe it, we're at the end of the TBR spin for this year. One spin left. We have one book left on our pile. I know it looks like I have more here, but I'll talk about them in a second. I guess I'll announce at the front end that I don't think I'm going to be doing the spin next year. I shouldn't say I don't think. I'm not going to be doing the spin next year. Sarah and I have talked about it, and I think I'm going to make one more video at the end of this year talking about my best and worst books of the year, and I'll talk maybe more about that, how I'm feeling about videos then. But it's no surprise to you, of course, if you've watched me throughout the year. Like, I've definitely made less videos, and I've definitely been less, I just don't know how to be online, and increasingly I'm like afraid to be on the internet. And I know that sounds maybe like really silly, but I don't think it's silly. Like, I don't know how to be online in a way that makes me feel safe anymore, like to put myself out there in a way that makes me feel safe. And that's largely due to, like, not because of like, it's not like people watching my videos and leaving comments. It's like corporations misusing my information and my data and stuff. As important as this community has been to me over the past couple of years, it's just been really hard for me to glean the same amount of joy from making videos as it was in the past. So I'll stop talking about all of that now, but I will just say thank you so much for being here over the past 2 years. If you've joined in, it has been such a good time. I have loved seeing all your comments, seeing your posts on Instagram, just talking about it. It's also been great for me for my reading and for cleaning out my bookshelves. I have loved it. It's been such a fun experience, and it's only been fun because you've all been here with us. So I am so grateful, and I hope that you know how much this has meant to me as a individual, but also just like how much your comments I think matter to the whole book community. So thank you so much for participating and for being here and for just being so supportive and just like being wonderful people who love to read books. I am so truly grateful and humbled and feel very lucky that this has been a part of my life for 2 years. Anyway, not to am I gonna cry? Probably. As a small aside, you can see my nails are painted like Wicked colors. I'm going to see Wicked tomorrow. I'm very excited about it. I, of course, have been a Wicked fan since 2003 when the album first came out. Anyway, I won't go into all of my Wicked lore, but I do love it. And I have never in my life listened to Defying Gravity or For Good and not cried. I genuinely can't think of a time. And I was watching clips of different people singing Defying Gravity like 2 weeks ago for like hours at night, and I was just crying for 2 hours straight. So I'm not going to be okay in that movie. So I guess it's not that strange that I would cry. I'm a crier. I'm just a crier, okay? So sorry for all the diversions. Let's get into the spin. After the spin, I'm going to talk a little bit about my reading from the fall, and then I will do a short-ish talk about the show Say Nothing, if you want to stick around for that. So, the spin. Let's talk about these books here. I actually don't know why Burnham Wood is on this stack. I am just reading this currently, and it was on my bed. So, I'm enjoying Burnham Wood, actually. Like, I know I said I was going to stop doing diversions, but I'm really enjoying Burnham Wood. I think I didn't realize it was kind of a thriller type of book, and I was reading through some of the I was trying to find something to read. I was kind of not in a slump, but I just was like, nothing was speaking to me. And I was looking through the books I own and looking up, people's reviews of them or like what they're about and stuff, and I think I didn't realize that this was like a thriller or like a thriller light type of thing. And some of the reviews I've seen have said like the first half is just too much character stuff, but I'm loving the writing. She's such a good writer. I also have recently learned that the author of Burnham Wood, Eleanor Catton, she wrote The Luminaries, which is like this 1,000-page novel that won a lot of awards, was quite successful, and maybe only one of her few novels she's written. She published that when she was 28. So, feeling consistently underperforming as a person. Anyway, I'm really enjoying Burnham Wood. I love the writing style. Probably finish that today or tomorrow, honestly. Other thing, oh gosh, again, more diversions. I've realized about myself that I'm not really enjoying reading at night anymore. Not enjoying, I just can't really. I think adding back in the commute to work, and now my commute to work sucks because of, again, more diversions. Sometimes I bus to work, and the bus system where I live is absolute trash. It's actually like an embarrassment. It's like the worst bus system in any capital city in the world. It's atrocious. So that causes me a lot of grief. And I just find like by the time I get home, by the time I like prepare tomorrow's lunch, and by the time I do other things, like if I'm going out to see people, if I'm going to do whatever, run errands, whatever it is, I just don't want to read in bed. Like my brain is tired and I don't want to read. So I really only like reading in the morning, like early in the morning or on the weekends. I like to read in daylight is one thing. I like to have the natural light to be able to read. Maybe it's my eyesight. So many diversions in this video. Anyway, all that is to say, I found my reading the past couple months has been slowing down because of like just a timing thing. But I've been watching a lot of TV, which we'll get to in a minute. Okay, so in October, the prompt was to read a spooky book. I picked Rouge. I did not read Rouge. I picked it up a couple of times. I read the first page like 3 or 4 times. It just didn't happen in October. The timing wasn't there. The mood wasn't really there. I listened to mostly audiobooks in October for timing reasons. So this didn't happen. I think I have the audiobook on hold at the library, so maybe I'll read it because I do want to read it. So maybe I'll read it when the audiobook comes in, or maybe I'll find some time this fall, like this winter, to read it, but I didn't get to that. So let me know if you got to your October pick. The November prompt was probably my favorite that we had for the whole year, which is, hold on, I gotta get it right. A book that makes you feel like a male intellectual in the 1940s studying in Oxbridge. Such a funny prompt. I ended up picking a book that wasn't on my stack. This is Dayspring by Anthony Oliveira. This is like it's like a love story retold through a biblical lens, or like with biblical references, and then also written like poetry. Let me show you an example of some of the pages. I'm only about 160 pages in, but I am loving it. It's beautifully written. I love what it's trying to do with like the biblical references, the kind of parallels it's telling with the story of Jesus. It's rich, it's complex, it's deep, it's very good. I chose this because it feels like something that would be discussed at like a university. The cover kind of gives me vibes of like Oxbridge. It's queer, it's biblical, it's poetry, so it feels like all these things that like an intellectual would study. But it doesn't feel like a challenging intellectual text. It feels really just immersive and beautiful, and some just like extraordinary lines in there. Really enjoying this. Not quite finished it yet, but yeah, this was a great pick for that one for November. So this leaves us with our final spin of the year. The only book I have left on my stack is England by Julian Barnes. This was like a reread, like a substitute for a reread for me on the stack. It feels unlikely to me that I will want to read this in December. I'm also going back to Newfoundland for Christmas, so December is always like a light reading month for me. I don't really have the time, and my December is so busy, and I'm already kind of like feeling exhausted looking at my schedule, but I didn't want to cancel anything. I just already know I'm not going to have a lot of reading time. I'm probably going to have a lot of audiobook time, but not so much actual like physical book reading time. So anyway, all that is to say, I think it's unlikely. This is like a summer book. This doesn't feel like a winter book, so I don't have strong hopes this will be the book that I pick for the spin. But you know, maybe. Let's see what the spin gives us. I have my computer here. Guys, I'm also having like battery challenges with my computer. Ugh, what a nightmare. You don't need to hear about this, but the point is it's just one more thing I have to sort out. I just haven't sorted it out yet. Okay, let's spin the wheel. What is October going to give us? What if I just showed you this? That would be too much happening. A swap. No. Oh my gosh, a classic you're embarrassed you haven't read yet. Ooh, that feels like a good pick for the winter, doesn't it? Let me go and check my classics shelf, BRB. Okay, I've come back with a few options. The stack here. East of Eden. Am I embarrassed I haven't read this yet? Not really, but I do want to read it. But I think, am I going to read this in December this year? Highly unlikely. I also have, this is one I actually am kind of embarrassed I haven't read. It's Their Eyes Are Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. Actually, another one I'm embarrassed I haven't read is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. Two very, influential Black authors, American Black authors. I haven't read their most well-known books. I don't even really know what this is about, but this is a contender. I just kind of had a quick flip through. The thing I think I need to be aware of this month is like the style of writing. I think I have a lower capacity this month to read anything that's like super complex, like a very literary style of writing. From my very cursory look, it looks like it won't be a super challenging like highly literary read. The other one that I think I am a little bit embarrassed I haven't read is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I love this cover also of this book, this edition. But this actually feels like it might be just too sad to read in December. And the last candidate, which I think is the most likely one because of its size and subject matter, is The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie by Muriel Spark. I mean, these are all sort of like, I guess, contemporary classics, like modern classics. I don't have a lot of like Victorian classics in my collection, and certainly I'm not going to read Great Expectations in December of this month. That's that's not happening. So I think probably these are the two most likely candidates. I'm not feeling strong either way. Maybe I'll give myself a bit of grace and like a bit of a gift myself in December and let myself just choose whichever one is calling to me when I feel the urge to read them. But let me know in the comments down below which one you would pick of these two, and tell me why. That's it for the TBR Spin for 2024. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. My cat is here and he's begging me to pet him. He's in a weird mood. Comes to the camera. Say hello, Benny. He's purring a lot. I don't know what he wants. I think he just wants attention. Don't we all? His little feetsies. Oh, he's so cute. He's so cute. Okay, goodbye. Please excuse the cat hair for the rest of the video. Some thoughts and reflections on the spin this year. I do feel like my reading, especially over the past couple of months, has been like, I've read some great books. Like I reread Say Nothing, obviously a 5-star. I don't think it's my reading mood. I think it's my reading rhythm. Because when I was working from home, either full-time or like more days than I do now, I had just so much more time to read, and it was part of my morning. Like I would get up at the same time, but I would have an hour to read in the morning. I think there's something also in the air. Like I think we can all agree that the mood globally is, you know, rough. Just the vibes are off, and I hate that expression, sorry, I just said it. I've been buying fewer books than I have in the past 4 or 5 years. I think October was the first month since April 2019 that I didn't buy a book. That's 5 years. 5 years that I bought at least one book every single month, and I didn't in October. And I bought a few books in November, but they were like at the library sale, and some of them were gifts, and so they weren't even like, I wasn't going out to, like I've been going to bookstores, but I haven't been buying anything. And I think I feel a little bit super saturated with what I have, and I feel a little bit, this is partly due with my relationship currently with BookTube, but like, and the book internet generally, like I feel a bit uninspired by like what I'm seeing that's coming out. But I'm also realizing this year, as I've been reading books that I bought like a year, 2, 3 years ago, that I'm just not enjoying them as much as I might have when I bought them initially. Like, I think I should follow my instincts. As I've discussed at length, I am a real mood reader. And I think if I'm in the mood to buy a book at a certain time, I should read it, you know, within a reasonable span of when I buy it, like a month, because I'm in the mood to read it. So when I have books, I have so many books that just sit idle on my shelf and I don't read them for many, many years. I think I just kind of, that, and I am such a person who I have such waves of like interests in things. I get really into something for like 6 months, and then I kind of like lose a bit of interest in it. And has always been my personality. So if I'm interested in a book, I should read it in the 6 months I'm interested in it, or else it just probably won't have the same impact. So I think I've just kind of gotten to a rhythm of like, let's be more strategic about what we're buying. If I can't read it right away, I don't need to own it right now. And a prime example of this is Angela Merkel's memoir, and then also Alexei Navalny's memoir. Both came out in the past couple of weeks, maybe a month or two, and I haven't bought them because I don't have time to read them. And I know I want to read them as soon as I get them because I'm really interested in them. But they're both long books, and they're like political memoirs, so they're going to be not necessarily like a quick like 2-day read. It's going to be a couple of days, or if not a couple of weeks, to read them. So I need to have the time to actually dedicate to them, and I don't have it right now. I don't have the headspace, I don't have the time. So I'm not buying them, even though I desperately want to read them. So I will buy them probably in the new year when I have a bit more time. Anyway, also this is not related to anything necessarily, but I just wanted to share that I read David Grann's book, The Wager. I listened to an audiobook, and I want to update because I was really loving it. I think I posted on my Instagram that I thought it was a great opening sentence, and it is. Like, the first couple of chapters are great. But I had to give up on it. Like, I think I got more than halfway through, but I was just really bored. And I do want to say, I think partly it is the audiobook narrator, but I do think it's also, there's not enough story for it to be a whole book. And I'm only saying this because I read David Grann's book, Killers of the Flower Moon, earlier this year, and I also had the same experience. I like really lost steam with it as it was going. So this is a pattern, and he also wrote, is it the Lost City of Z or something? Whatever that, I'll put a picture of the cover here. And the reason I keep trying to read him is because Patrick Radden Keefe, of Say Nothing fame. He has done a couple events with him where like they moderate each other at different like kind of book events. And I believe that they both used to write for the New Yorker. Well, Patrick Radcliffe still does write for the New Yorker. I don't know. I think David Grann did. Don't quote me on that. And also I've seen Patrick Radcliffe reading David Grann's work and like, you know, promoting it. And so I just feel like I should like him more than I do. If you have read The Lost City of Z, can you let me know if it has similar vibes to his other 2 books that I mentioned? Because if it does, I'm not going to read it. But I still have this like strange need to like complete his works, even though I'm not really enjoying them. But now that I have mentioned Patrick Radcliffe, Say Nothing, I did reread this again in October, and my 4th reread from, if my Goodreads is correct, and it definitely is. I loved this, if possible, even more reading it for the 4th time. I think I was paying attention to things I hadn't paid attention to before, as is often the case when you reread a book. I found myself much more emotionally involved in the book than I had in the past, especially the relationship between Hughes and Jerry Adams. Something about that relationship is, it's so deeply tragic. And really Brendan Hughes, I think, is like the tragic figure of this whole story. And going into the show, I mean, they're overlapping now, but the show, I think, does such a good job in a way that the book is, again, I have no complaints about the book Say Nothing, but I think the visual medium of the TV can just do what the book can't. And there's like a real, well, one thing you realize throughout the show, just how young all of these IRA people are. They're children. They're just children. And you also get a sense of like, this is obviously true in the book as well, but again, it's something about like the youthful energy that you see on screen from the actors. And also maybe this is just me being like closer to 40 than I am to 30. There's this like youthful arrogance that you have to have when you're young because you don't know any better. That you believe that you're right and that what you're doing is for the right reasons, and you have these strong convictions about what is the right thing to do, and even if that means doing something that's illegal or hurtful and, you know, will kill people or cause great harm to the people that your neighbors, to people you live around, to your friends, your family, it's all like in the name of an idea or a belief that you have, and that somehow is like the thing that's more important than anything else. And that's such a youthful way of looking at the world, and that is so perfectly rendered in the show. And then with the later episodes of like the great tragedy of Brendan Hughes, I think specifically Brendan Hughes, but also Dolores Price, but Brendan Hughes, like, he didn't expect to live to be a man. He expected to die in the war. And the book does this as well, but especially in the show, you just kind of see like a person who is purposeless when the war ends with paperwork, essentially, with bureaucracy. I think the tragedy is being like, well, who am I? What did I do all this for? Like, and really like the balance there is off. And like, how do you then live with yourself knowing that like you committed these crimes, you did these horrible things, violent, vicious things, that you were never supposed to live to see the repercussions of. I think that the show does such a good job of it. I think the book does an amazing job of really like evoking those, like the complexities of this. This is why it's so interesting, is that these people, yes, they committed murders, and yes, they committed crimes, they did awful things, but they did it because they believed they were fighting a war. I mean, it's not the same as soldiers coming home from the Second World War, but it is sort of like these people were fighting in the name of like ideology, and it's the same in why soldiers have PTSD, and you know, like, what was it all for? We lost people we love, but what was it all for? The same kind of questions. And I think it just is so complex. The story is so complex, and it makes you really question what is worth this. And yeah, I don't have an answer. These are just things you have to think about. I think it helps put into perspective. And as I've said before, what I really like about reading history and understanding what has happened in the past is that it helps make sense of what's happening now, because we do not exist in vacuums. We exist in the context, not to talk about Kamala Harris, but we exist in the context of what came before us. And, what's happening now in the world, it's not unique. It's not the first time it's happened. It is a reaction to people have certain beliefs about how things should be. This is how people react to the world around them when they feel they have no other choice. So I thought all of it was just fantastically done. This book is just genuinely like a masterpiece, and I had a couple friends who read it because of the show recently who messaged me and were like, this is a masterpiece, and correct, it is a masterpiece. And it's funny because, again, I talk about this book so much, and the longer I've sat with it and the more I've talked about it online, the more I feel like really protective of my experience with the book. And that sounds crazy because like I'm not Irish that I know of. I have no connection to Northern Ireland. It doesn't like, there's no family stories or anything that resonate with me in that capacity. But I think like as an object, like as a craft, as like a piece of narrative work, I don't know, like this has like, it just has done something to me, into my soul, to me as a person, into my brain. And it just means so much to me. And so I'm increasingly getting protective about it as the world is getting more and more access to it, that's also maybe a selfish, silly thing. But as a piece of art, as a craft, as an object, as a book, this means so much to me. And I don't think I actually ever could meet Patrick O'Keefe. I think it would be awful. For me, like, I think I would embarrass myself so much. I just don't think I can meet him. Because how do you tell someone that, like, their book changed your life, and it's like, this is a book about the troubles in Northern Ireland, it has nothing to do with you, but, like, it has changed my life. Anyway, thank you for watching, thank you for being here, thank you for being part of the Spin. If you've been part of the Spin for a month, a year, 2 years, thank you so much. It's been such a good time. I've absolutely loved it. I hope that your last Spin pick for December is one that you really love and enjoy. Happy holidays from me and from Benny, who's asleep next to me on the floor. And I hope you have a wonderful reading month, and I will see you soon.